something.
Okay. Thank you, Lourdes. Okay, we hereby call the April 5th, 2018 Design Review Board meeting to order. And I guess we will start off with announcements. Staff or Madam Attorney, any announcements?
I don't think we have any tonight.
Okay. Items to be heard. I'm assuming minutes are
Mr.
be for next
Chair,
time? Okay.
can
Yes,
I
sir.
ask a quick question? Sydney, if I have a question about a previous item that was heard, not that item per se, but just a process, would it be appropriate to do it now or let's wait till the end?
Probably wait till the, I guess, a question for staff.
For you, staff, yeah.
Okay, so, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, we can deal with it after we.
Okay.
Okay, in that case, we will move to the first item to be heard, which is the Sherwin-Williams final order.
Good evening, Tim Brown with Planning and Development. This is a major development application requesting approval to construct a 6,902 square foot building with associated infrastructure on .722 acres with the future land use of light industrial. It's located on the southwest corner of 98 and Lynn Drive. It's part of the industrial park there. And based on their proposal, it is in compliance with the scenic corridor requirements. They made a last minute change to address the lighting that we are proposing. So they're proposing, I mean, they can talk about it, but they're proposing 14-foot poles, 14 foot high, because that's what we're proposing to make the change in the code. And they're also proposing the blue tinge lights with the lumens, right?
Ideally, they'd be the warmer colored light, but I believe we have a number of 3,000 Kelvin in our proposed edits. Is it 35?
325.
No, 325.
325. I think the revision is should not be less than 3,000 and no greater than 5,000. I see what you're saying. 3225. I understood. Yeah.
2205.
Yes. Okay. Very good. So yes, I guess if their intent is to comply with that, then the upper end of that would be probably a light with a little bit of blue in it.
So I'll answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board to the staff at this point? Everybody okay with me inviting the applicant up?
Actually, let me make one more point, just so you're aware of it. Because this is a relatively small piece of property, to the west, they have conservation land, it's state land, which requires a 25-foot buffer. Well, they can't really fit all the plantings for a 25-foot buffer in that small of an area. So they've put some of it on the south side and some of it on the east side where there's no requirement for any landscaping or buffering. So just so you know, I mean, we feel like that meets the intent of the code. All of the plantings are there, and there's actually plantings where none are required under the code, but it's such a small site, they just physically cannot put all of that landscaping in that small of an area. I just want you to be aware of that.
So
Okay.
will that be a deviation?
No,
No.
they're doing the number of plantings. They're there. They're just not totally in that one spot. That's why it may not meet the letter of the code, but I think it meets the intent of the code. All the numbers are all correct. And again, there are screening areas that otherwise wouldn't have to be screened. So I think it's kind of a win-win.
Okay. Would the applicant like to make any remarks? If you could introduce yourself and spell your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Tanya Nation. I'm with AppCon. I'm representing the owner, 38 Country Mart LLC. It's Tonia Nation, Nation.
Thank you.
And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. The owner has, he intends to comply with all the scenic corridor criteria, and then, and we also made the lighting change, and if we need to make a change to the hue of the lighting, we can also do that as well.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions of the applicant? All right. Okay, thank you very much. Have we settled on a sequence of motion and inviting the audience input?
We can take audience input
Prior to motion. Okay, is everybody okay with that? All right. Anybody in the audience want to speak to this item? This is the Sherwin-Williams store. Yes, ma'am, identify yourself.
Coy
for the record,
Bowman,
please.
B-O-W-M-A-N. First, I'd like to point out that the parcel number doesn't match the paperwork. If you look at the original, the first deed, it says 863, not 800. Just to let you know, there's inaccurate paperwork behind this. Secondly, I'd like to mention that putting a big, giant square foot building on this area is going to look ugly. It's going to block the cute little tiny houses that are behind it. Third, they just admitted that they're not actually following the rules and staying the 25 feet away from the buffer. So, like, they've already said they're designing this against the rules, and then it's going to be ugly. And the problem with the lighting, like, okay, this is a problem in our society, is this rule of safety, is that it actually ends up damaging the environment, like, because a parking lot has to be lit up in order for people to be safe there, which actually is unsafe for all of the animals that are so dependent on the darkness and the quiet that we have here. The ambient light already on this island is starting to light up the night sky, which really bothers me, because that means no more turtles, no more birds, all of those things that are so wonderful about this place. So anyways, this is just going to add to the destruction of our island. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Okay, I believe that brings us to a motion.
One quick
Yes.
question. I was not completely plugged in with the 3 to 5 and all that either.
Okay.
Does what they're proposing land within the range that we're getting ready to recommend?
The information in the packet was a photometric map with all the little foot candles on it, which appears to comply with the current code by my read. I'm not sure, unfortunately, I printed it on a relatively small piece of paper, if the application packet actually indicated what the color spectrum of the lighting proposed is.
And I'm asking because the representative said they're willing to
Yes,
change
yeah,
that, so we might as well, we can
absolutely, yeah.
determine.
Ms. Nation, would you mind, do you have anything that indicates what the Kelvin, and I know that's a term that some folks don't always understand, but
I do not know exactly which to the hue that it is, but they are willing to make the modifications. So if you would like to make it a conditional approval and just attach the minimum and maximum kelvins, we can definitely accommodate that.
okay. Lee, I'm just going to look through here really quickly and see
I
if they
do
indicate
have the shop drawings for it. Let's see here.
And I have while you're looking, I have a quick question for staff. Does the
I have the answer. It's right in between, 4,000K.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
No problem.
does the application, does it make a difference that the parcel number on the application is incorrect?
I believe the application, it may be in the original application, maybe there was some discrepancies, but we went through this with staff and we confirmed that everything was correct on the plan set and the application, but we can always double check that before we go to planning commission next week.
Yeah, the parcel number is correct as the property appraiser has it.
Oh, I'm sorry, can I?
Yes, please.
If you click on the original, you know how when you go on the property appraiser's website, it tells you who bought the land from who. If you go to the original and you actually read the document, at the top of the document, it lists it's under tax ID number for
Mhm.
some reason.
Mhm.
And it has 0000 at the end, where this is listed on the property appraiser from this link as 0860. I mean, this is a very common problem, and it's part of the corruption with the property appraiser, stealing land and all of that.
Okay, ma'am, let's not get into, that's not the purview of this board. I'm looking at the parcel ID number on the application and the parcel ID number that the civil engineer has indicated in very large print at the top of the packet of drawings, and they match. So for our
Right, they
purposes,
just don't match the original deed work that's listed.
Thank you.
thank you.
It was
That's-
changed during the plating process.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're not voting on parcel ID numbers here tonight, so do we have
Well, I
anybody
was
willing
just-
to make
I
a?
was making just a reference toward, you know, the application itself for later on, whether, if somebody came back and said something about that. So, I mean,
No,
that's
sir.
really my
Mr.
point.
Chairman, we believe that the application and the parcel ID are correct.
Great.
There is no deficiency.
All
Good,
right.
thank you. Okay. All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, vote is seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? In that case, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? No opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, next item is retail therapy monument sign, and this is also a request for a final order.
Yes, thank you.
You have to hold it down for a minute.
Okay, for the audience's benefit, this item was reviewed in part at the previous meeting, and we continued it in order to receive some additional information, I believe.
Yes, that's
Yes.
exactly what I was going to say. However, I have not received any additional information since our last meeting. Now, maybe they brought something, I don't know.
Okay,
but
is the applicant in the audience?
I have
No.
not received anything.
Okay, in that case, probably to keep things moving along,
Motion to continue.
thank you.
Second.
All right, we have a properly motioned and seconded. Madam Attorney, do we need to specify the date, or is it assumed to be the next meeting?
To the next meeting.
Yep, okay.
The May meeting.
Very good. Does that item, does that have to be discussed? That's not a discussion, is that a, okay, all right. In that case, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item is the McDonald's building sign, another request for a final order.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? This is a request for a building sign measuring 197 inches by 24 inches for a total of 32.83 square feet. It's located on the south side of the building facing Highway 98. It is in compliance with the scenic corridor standards. Just so you know, they're going to be revamping that McDonald's. They're going to do a complete exterior renovation of it, and this is one of the new signs for it. There are some other signs. This is the one moving forward at this time. So I will answer any questions you may have.
Is this the one in Miramar Beach?
Yes.
Okay. So the graphic, we have two sheets that show a sign on the front of the building in white lettering McDonald's, and then there's also what they call their golden arches, I guess, on the side of it. Are we just approving the one sign on the front of the building?
Yes.
Okay.
That golden arch requires a deviation because the code says you can have one building sign.
Ah, okay.
So we're not considering that at this point?
Not tonight, no.
And to be clear, this rendering is how the building itself will look once renovated?
Yes, this is the proposed renovation of that building. It's not the way it looks currently.
And will the renovation come before us later?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right. In that case, is the applicant present? Would you like to come forward, sir? You don't have to, but you certainly may.
Jason Toole with CPH. Do you need my address as well?
Just spell your name with me.
Okay,
Oh, I guess-
Toole.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we are representing McDonald's with a civil engineer and architect for this job. So, like you said, it would be a part of a more remodel of the entire building. There would be other signage. Essentially, what happened, we originally submitted. McDonald's decided they wanted to do a double drive-through. You've probably seen that on a lot of sites, and so we have revamped the site submittal and signage and sent that back through. So that's why that'll come back before you in May, I believe.
Okay.
So this one's just going a little ahead of that.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Anyone,
questions?
any questions?
And it's gonna be white?
The sign itself?
Is gonna be white?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and it'll be more like of a beige. It'll match your, right now, obviously, you probably know the current McDonald's doesn't match your scenic corridor color scheme. And so when we do the remodel, that will be part of that exterior remodel. We'll be bringing into compliance with those colors. So,
Make a motion to approve.
Oh, we got to take public input. Any members of the, thank you for, Ms. Bowman?
Expeditious.
Okay, so I know you said you didn't want to bicker about parcel numbers, but one of the reasons they changed a bunch of them in the 80s was to hide all of this land conversion from the federal government. So when I type this number in and I come up with the paperwork for it, I click on the first piece of paper and it has a different parcel number. And so then I took that number and put it in, and it comes up with a piece of land that's not in the same section as it. So
Okay.
this is
Ms.
what
Ms.
this-
Bowman, I've got to interrupt you. Number one, this is not germane to the business
Okay.
that we're conducting tonight. And I
you-
appreciate your input, but if you could, Madam Attorney, if you could confirm this. If there is a problem with the parcel ID numbers, I believe that is going to be the applicant's problem. In other words, it's not going to generate a problem for the public where we approve something with the wrong parcel ID number. That's going to be a problem the applicant's going to need to solve.
That's correct.
So, yeah, so not only are we not talking about this type of thing tonight, but even if we were, if we approve something with the wrong ID, it's going to be their problem, not ours or the public's.
Oh, well, that's interesting that you don't take any of the blame. Okay, so
Well,
then let's.
in that case,
let me- can
ma'am, unless you have something germane to say.
Yeah, let
then-
me ask about this sign then. You said that the code says they're allowed one sign, right? So they're asking for the sign that's not the golden arches tonight.
That's correct.
And then later, they're going to ask to deviate from the rule to get the golden arches.
In a separate application, yes.
So now, if they know that they can only have one sign, and they know that their iconic visual recognizability is the golden arches, then why don't they just do the golden arches and not this second sign?
If
mean,
the applicant
because-
wants to come forward and answer that, he may, but I certainly am not going to attempt to
Because
answer
here's what
that.
I know, is that they're not going to build a McDonald's without some golden arches on it somewhere. So instead of just following the rule, they're going to try and use their one free sign to get some other sign other than their arches, and then to get their arches, because they're McDonald's, they're going to ask for some special allowance. So, I mean, that sounds like corruption to me. Thank you.
Okay, any other members of the public? Any comments from the rest of the board? Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt your motion earlier, Tom.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, properly motioned and seconded. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. All right, Tim, we are up to the shops at 393, formerly known as HBC Mixed Use Development.
Yes, thank you. This is a major development order application requesting approval to develop 128 apartments, 21,242 square feet of commercial, and 5,575 square feet of office/amenity area with associated infrastructure on 15.06 acres for the future land use of VMU. This is located behind and west of the Sufco that's currently under construction. Basically, the Sufco is an out parcel of this larger development. It is in compliance with the scenic corridor regulations, and with that said, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any members of the board have any questions of staff?
Also, just for your info, some of the buildings sit beyond the 400 feet established, but we treated this the same way we treated the PUD. There was a previously approved PUD on this property that expired, so just so you know, we're treating the whole site like it's in the scenic corridor. So the whole thing is being reviewed under the scenic corridor regulations.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
I mean, I just wanted you to know, because some of it is beyond the 400 feet.
Yes. Yep. Okay, appears the applicant is present. Would you all like to make a presentation? And
Just briefly.
okay, very good. If you could, just to introduce yourself and spell your name for the
Sure.
record.
Scott Jenkins with Jenkins Engineering, Jenkins, and I'm the civil engineer for the project. The architect for the project is here, and I'm sure you may have some questions for him, and he may like to speak, but just give you a brief overview of what we're doing here. This is the corner of 393 and US 98. This is the site where the Selco is currently being built at the corner here. The remainder of the property is here, and it's approximately 15 and a half acres, not including the Selco site. The request is really, there's about 20,000 square feet of commercial along this frontage, and then apartments that are along the backside here. All of the buildings are two-story, maximum about 29 feet or so. Reese here can talk to some of the architectural features. We will have interconnectivity throughout. We'll have an access off of US 98 here, and we will have an access off of 393, which is being constructed as part of this other project. We have wet detention that's located in the middle of the area here and here, and we have designed a 100-year storm event in case, I know you guys don't really consider that, but just to throw that out. If you have any questions about the engineering, I'll be able to answer those for you, and Mauricio can speak to the architectural features.
So there's just one entrance from 98?
Yes, ma'am.
But we,
Well, Selco has a separate entrance for there, there's one to this entire site.
but we would still be considering signage on that 393 entrance?
Signage on 393.
Yeah, that, the entrance from 390, where you're saying, is there gonna be a sign there as
Oh,
well?
no, sir.
Okay.
And that's apartments and what else?
Retail, commercial in the front.
So the front part next to the gas station, is that retail?
Yes,
Okay, and the apartments are all that's behind it?
all of these buildings here.
And everything's 2 stories?
Yes. Well, the retail is 1 story actually, but all the apartments are 2-story max.
In our packet, that we have a 31-page set of inserts.
Yes.
This is a big development, so, where, I wanna make sure I'm just getting the feel for it from the road. On page 23, I'm just confirming that what I'm assuming is correct. That looks like the best elevation that we would have to show what it will look like from 98. Am I accurate? I'm trying to find an actual page number better than 23 of 31. A3.3.
My name is
Is that-
Mauricio Castro. I'm with Place Alliance in Orlando. Spell the name MAURICILCASTRO. Well, I'll do, let me pull up the renderings. It's probably the easiest way to deal with it. And
Great.
that's probably, every question will come through that. So I'm going to do that on the screen right there.
Great. Yes, sorry.
So the renderings may be in a different order. I'm just going to explain what you see on screen. This is actually the front of the shops as they front 98. I'm sorry. Let me stand up here. Windows. Oh, that one.
9, down bottom.
Right. There you go. So what we're trying to do is trying to convey a kind of a fresh architectural style, if you will, for 98. We're trying to combine the idea of the mercantile architecture, pretty much what you see on main streets throughout the U.S., but giving it a little bit of a twist by painting the brick, one of the colors, obviously, that you have on your list, and basically, for sake of purpose, white or off-white, with base stucco or precast to make the buildings kind of look thick and nice towards the frontage. That is the main idea of the retail commercial. Now, what we've done, if you notice, we've been articulating the buildings in and out. Let me see if I can pass to the next page. There you go. That'll be the opposite corner. You still look at the main entrance from 98 coming into that element. And what we've done is pretty much kind of make the buildings thicker on purpose at the corners to allow shadows into the windows and have a playful elevation, if you will, not just a flat facade towards 98. So I think after seeing other developments such as 30 Avenue, which we worked on years ago, those are kind of the tricks that we know or have some appeal from the standpoint of retail, and obviously complies with all the requirements of the Sand Corridor. This will be the main entrance coming in as you come into the project. The residential will be on the back side, and what you will see as you come in on the right will be the clubhouse and leasing office for the apartment complex. A little bit of an elevated view right into the project. Corner. Some of the details of the buildings. They're not all this monolithic piece. They're divided into 3 buildings, which I think has a better scale throughout. I'm sorry, this is not going through very quickly. And I'm trying to find that elevation that he's referring to, so give me 1 sec. I think you're looking at the full frontage elevation. Am I correct?
I think so, yeah, that's what it looks
Sheet-
like.
It was sheet A 3.30.
Let me get to that.
Yeah, there's the sheet number, thank you guys.
It's not colored.
It's black and white. I think we have them colored up and down. It'll take a while. It's a big file. The page number is which one? 3?
It's A3.30.
I'm sorry, computer is.
And I don't have really, at the moment, a question about it. I'm just trying to
Just
confirm
trying to
that that
understand.
is the view from the.
I mean, this is what I just showed you. Obviously, you're seeing a bigger view coming in.
Yeah.
So you're definitely going through the retail to get back into the apartments, as Scott explained. And what we've done is kind of, we try to also have an arrival sequence, if you will, coming in. That's why when you engage the architecture of the retail, you kind of have 2 piers side by side, which later is repeated on the theme of the actual clubhouse. It'll take a while to put this computer together.
I do have while that's loading up, I have a question.
Yes.
There is a landscape drawing that unfortunately, I'm going to guess this may be consistent with other folks. The scan, there are portions of the scan that are a little difficult to read.
I believe
If I
that's
underst-
not part of this package.
Is-
Can you find that?
Yeah.
Well, fine.
Tim, is the landscape part of what we're considering tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Just to get to my point, and again, we can come back to it, while you're looking for this drawing, I thought I'd ask the question. It appears that the trees that are throughout the parking lot in the retail area are magnolias. I'm sorry, live oaks, and there are a handful of magnolias around the perimeter of the property, maybe predominantly in the back, some along the sides of the retail. But in the renderings, it looks like it was all palms of some sort. So I just want to make sure we understand which one of the drawings. I would think that the site plan, landscape plan would govern. I understand renderings are, often done early. Just,
I'll speak to that.
Okay.
We actually have a different landscape architect do the actual landscape plan, yes, or the landscape plan would govern
Govern.
what the actual trees were. So
Okay.
that's what's
all right.
about.
And I'm not talking about location, I'm talking about species.
Yes, species.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, mine was very fuzzy and difficult to read. Were you able to determine those were live oaks?
Yeah, it appears at the top is the in descending order on the planning schedule. It goes live oak, southern magnolia, sweet bay magnolia, slash pine,
There we go. Yeah.
Natchez crepe myrtle,
Barely tell.
and then sable palm. but the sable palms are relatively few and far between, and they all, trying to find a couple of them. I think they are in little clusters. But the predominant tree on
Along
the
the
site is
side.
a live oak, as our code requires.
That's important.
Yeah.
I had that same question.
Okay, sorry about that detour.
Oh, no problem at all. Just trying to make sure that we're getting to that. A334, you said?
3.30.
Okay. There you go.
There
Yes.
we go. That's it. Yep.
That'll be it. Correct. This will be actually the left side of the three buildings that you have on the site plan.
Okay.
So, it's difficult to see on the renderings. It was a little bit easier to see. The two higher pieces are at the corners, if you will, of the two buildings. So we try to have an idea of symmetry, though they're different. They're not exactly the same,
Mm-hmm.
the same building.
Okay, so when you say left side, right side, that's from the front.
Right. If you're looking north on 98, this
Yeah.
would be the left two buildings, actually, because there's two different structures there.
So if we continue to scroll, you can see different parts of the front facade of the development.
Correct, but let me make sure that we are, yes. So this will be the left side,
West. Yep.
I'm sorry, the west side, perfect, yeah, absolutely right. And they're just looking all around the structures. And that will be the east side.
Does the entire development have any rooftop equipment?
Air conditioning, but it's actually located on the back side of this structures. Well, it'll have slope roof, a parapet with a slope roof on the back. The air conditioning, and you can see that in one of the sections. I'll have to get to them, but it will be on the back side of the building. You won't be able to see that from 98, and it'll be hidden by the parapet.
I think currently the code, doesn't it require that it's screened from all sides?
Well, I'll show you the. Let me get to the section.
I just
That
want to
way-
make sure we're,
That way, we cross that.
I tried to find where it shows it on the buildings, and I couldn't, but there's a lot of pages with a lot of small print.
I think I have. Here.
I thought I saw some that were on the ground, maybe in the
For
apartments.
the apartments, that
Apartments,
is
yeah.
correct. The apartments will have it on the ground.
So the retail is where I could never really
Right,
determine where
exactly.
they are,
Now, let me make sure.
but I could have missed it.
I'm sorry, computer's really slow. There is a section, let me try to get to it. Unfortunately, it's a very large set. We'll get to it. Just trying to find it right now. Correct. This will be a case of the enclosures for the residential, what you see there. So we're kind of making sure that they're all enclosed. And let me see if I find, and there you go. And here, you can see with the arrow of the cursor, those will be the air conditioning for the actual retail buildings on the backside of the slope.
Yeah, there's a slightly larger rendering, Lee. The last sheet in our set, which has the lighting on it, a
Okay.
5.06.
Mhm.
There's actually
Oh, there it
a
is.
unit shown up against the rear parapet.
There's a unit, yep.
There you go. So you can see it right there in that section. Right about there.
Yep. Okay.
Just want to make sure that every single one of those units is
Gotcha.
completely
No, it
concealed.
makes sense. You don't want to see that.
No.
They're not pretty to see. So they'll be hidden by the parapet right behind that area. And they've been specified in terms of how big they need to be and what have you. So we know they fit okay in that location.
Great.
Mr. Jenkins, I'll direct this question to you. On the last sheet that we have, A5.06, there's a description of the lighting.
Yes,
And they're full cutoff, kind of a, how to describe these lights? full cutoff type dark sky fixture, and it notes specifically they're dark sky compliant. It indicates that the bulb type's LED incandescent, does not indicate what the color spectrum would be, but is it safe to assume that it's going to be?
Absolutely, it would be, yes, sir, it would fall within the range that you guys require.
Okay.
Thank you.
I did not see a photometric chart, but based on the site plan and the description of the fixtures, I'm pretty confident it's not gonna be an issue. Lighting's not gonna be an issue. Okay, do you have any further questions of the applicant?
Did we already determine that all the required landscaping, it does meet the minimum requirements as far as all the landscaping? Little sparse to me.
Actually, in some ways, it actually goes beyond the code requirements because, well, it's a little too hard to explain, but there's actually landscaping in some areas that hasn't been required previously. I mean, the scenic, I'm actually talking outside the scenic corridor on the west and on the east. It absolutely meets all of that, but there is some landscaping on 393 and on the west side that actually we haven't required in the past. So it's not really over and above, but there's landscaping there that we didn't used to require.
You good? So on the retail, this is a good, potentially, if I'm reading this or seeing this correctly. I know we're not looking at signage now, but I guess for the applicant, my question is, it looks like there may be sort of depressed sections or raised, I can't tell from the two-dimensional photos, for signage above retail bays. And so this concerns me. This is the issue, back to staff, that we've had where every single bay has I don't know how to say it, but it's made into the building, this frame of the sign. So then when you have, let's say you've got 2 bays that a tenant takes up, then where does their sign go? If it goes in only one of the sign frames, let's say, then it's not centered with their location. But we don't want 2 signs right next to each other, or 3 or 6, how many ever bays the tenant may take up. So that, I know we're not looking at signage tonight, but that would be a concern for me if we're approving that style of building signage on bay-centric retail.
And the new proposed code addresses that, but as currently written, it does not address that.
I know, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, and Tim, actually, we've talked about that in the past, where you guys really want to see the signage. In this specific case, and the owner's here, and he may speak to this too, but I really don't think they know exactly what it's going to be yet. So we tried to leave it as conservative as possible, but as generic as possible. So like the parking requirements, instead of standard retail, we did it for a shopping center, which would allow any mixture of uses, basically. And so we tried to be a little more conservative. Obviously, and I honestly think the inset signs on the renderings were probably just an idea that delineated space more than trying to get approval for it. So it was just more of an architectural kind of idea, and we realized we'll have to come back and get those approved.
So we don't know that that's going to be a restaurant?
No.
Because it does show drive-through.
Correct, yeah. Tim's question is, we have a drive-through on the west side,
Yeah,
as you see.
I only bring it up because he's saying retail, but that one rendering shows a fast food restaurant with a drive-through. But he's saying that's just, they don't know that's what's going to go there.
Correct. They're trying to design it so that would be an option for somebody to put that in there. And we did our parking so that that would not be an issue and that we would meet those requirements, but I don't know exactly what the uses will be yet.
So that's a bridge for later, but that's just my word of
Yeah.
I don't want to say, let's say just caution, is
No.
that if the signage is framed, built into the facade of the building, but then you have multiple bay tenants, and those tenants can change over time. So you might have a tenant, that you've got two bay tenants, and then they roll out, and then you got one one bay,
Yeah.
one tenant for two bays. And so, that can just be challenging and problematic because you can't change that, or it's harder and more expensive to change the facade of the building
Yeah,
for the
Yeah.
signage. So
that
just
makes
a word
perfect
of-
sense.
Word
Yeah.
of caution there.
No, and we appreciate it. That makes perfect sense, so.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comment of the applicant or staff? Okay, in that case, anybody in the audience like to speak to this?
Coy Bowman. Okay, so the first thing I noticed when I look at this is a whole bunch of wetlands are in these parcels. And then one of these wetlands is a perfectly square L where somebody has literally stolen the land and sold it probably to China. Right next door to this, there is a development where it looks like there's at least 100 homes already built, and it looks like they plan on building another 100, and they're all built incorrectly with no absorption ground, no trees. And that whole block is going to sink. I guarantee you all of these homes are currently for sale and nobody's going to buy them. Nobody wants to live like this, and it's dangerous for the land and it's dangerous for our island. So now I see you want to take another big chunk of land and do the exact same thing with it. It's a pretty drawing, but it doesn't belong here. None of this should have been approved. It's actually against federal law to build like this in Florida. So I just know what a wreck our island is in right now when it comes to water and sewage. And there's so much that's been approved because they know that they're not going to be allowed to do it anymore. They're trying to squeeze in as much as they can before the Army stops them. So, this isn't going to happen even if you approve it, because right next door is going to be torn down and restored back to its natural state. So, I just don't understand how any builder would want to build here knowing that nobody's going to buy the house. And I don't see why anybody would approve building more houses when 70% of the property on this island is for sale right now. And only 10% of it is actually lived in by people that live here all year round. So they're catering to this.
Ms. Bowman, again, I gotta stop you, you're starting to get pretty far.
Yeah, I'm looking at the big picture. The little picture is that there's wetlands on this property. Oh, and I know you don't want me to mention that the deed is wrong, but if you look at the originating deed, Walton County is stamped out and a county in Missouri is written in. So once again, we have illegitimate paperwork, and then we have the exact wrong thing that you're supposed to do with the land. You're not supposed to be pouring concrete on it, and we already have too many people living here, too much light, too much noise. The amount of traffic and congestion that is on this island right now infuriates people, and it infuriates the people who come here to visit the peace and quiet. So, if that's what we're inviting people to do, and then we take it all away, what's the point? It's nothing makes sense. I get it. Nothing makes sense about approving anything. It doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. I believe we had someone else who wanted to speak. You will come forward. Thank you.
I'm Claudia Bowen, Bowen. And I had a couple of questions about the layout of the entranceways to the retail on 98, and also the entranceway to the apartments, the 128 apartments on 393. For the retail, I was hoping that they would at least have a wide entranceway. The Dollar General, I believe it'll be to the west of that piece of property, it has a very narrow entranceway, and people slam on brakes and come to a complete stop on 98 trying to turn into it. And the red light is just, a few yards back, and so it causes a traffic problem. And I was wondering also if any sort of traffic study had been done for this area, if y'all are aware of how many accidents occur at that corner. I live around the block from there, and I had to sit through 4 or 5 red lights the other day just to get my child to school at that one light. It seems like at least, I know every Friday there's a wreck there, and it seems to be one a day. The fire station is on 393, so I hear the sirens going and responding. And there seems to be numerous accidents. And I don't know if anyone's taken that into consideration because it's a nightmare. If it does somehow pass, if they could somehow put a right turn lane if you're heading west on 98 so that the people are not slamming on brakes and causing a chain reaction of accidents. Um,
And Ms. Bowen, I
sorry.
don't mean to stop you, but just to let you know, this project, if it's approved by this board, it has to go to the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners.
So-
And at those hearings,
that could be addressed
yes,
there. then.
ma'am, and the applicant might address it tonight, but
Okay.
this board just reviews the project for aesthetics.
Okay. Well, for
So how it looks,
aesthetics,
yeah.
for the apartments, I live in the Church Street Village development that these apartments literally will be in my backyard. And it's my understanding that HBC Investments is also Huff Homes, who sold me my home and sold my parents that home. And they're developing this same property, and a lot of residents in our neighborhood are concerned if they're going to sell the development to someone else to oversee, or if they're going to maintain control of that property and the apartments.
I'd have to ask the applicant to
Okay.
respond to that if they're willing.
Yes, please. Yes.
I'll just respond real quickly to the traffic questions. We did do a traffic study, and it's part of the technical review. As part of this project, we will have to build a right turn lane in with the DOT. We will have to extend the left turn lane that's on 98 now, that goes on to 393.
Eastbound?
Yeah, if you
Yes,
turn north,
yes,
we'll have to
needs
make
be
that,
done now as it is.
we'll have to make that longer,
Okay.
as part of this project. And the width of the driveway is actually set by DOT. They won't let us go any wider than really what we have it now. We
So there would
wouldn't
be,
mind going wider, but
there'd be a right turn lane, and then the left turn going eastbound would
Will be
be
longer.
extended.
Mhm,
Okay,
it will be
'cause
made
that's,
longer.
that's needed
Yes.
right now.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you sure about that right turn lane? Are you 100% sure that they're gonna put a right turn lane there off of 98?
I'm 100% sure that we will be required to put in a right turn lane. Yes, ma'am. We've actually met with DOT already, and we will have to put in.
And that's not, it's
Right.
not indicated in the plans we're looking at, so.
That's correct,
Yeah,
because
see,
it's in the right
That's
of
not
way.
even our stuff, because we don't.
Correct, but we will,
evaluate that.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, do we have any other, yes, ma'am.
She had
Did
one
they
more
answer the question about who's going to, if they're gonna sell the development to someone else, or if they'll still maintain control?
I have to, if the applicant wishes to respond to it, he can. It's
Okay.
not directly germane to the items we're reviewing, so I
Okay.
can't demand it.
It's just in my backyard, and he sold me my home and my parents their home in the same neighborhood, and other residents are concerned. It's sort of like we got sold a house, and now, guess what? We're throwing some apartments, because no one knew what was going back there. There was a fire that almost burned down one side of the subdivision, and after that, I inquired numerous times who owned that property, and was anything ever going to be done with it, and it was like a big secret. The HOA said they didn't know. He said they were saying they didn't know, and this was in the works, and no one told me. This was 2014 when the fire occurred. So I'm just,
Chandler Huff, HUFF. Church Street Village is a neighborhood that we did in 2004. We bought this property in 2014, I think, so, that was 10 years prior, so I had no idea we were on the bottom property. As far as the apartments and the density on this piece of property, we have probably cut the density down to what was previously approved in the PUD by probably a fourth of what was already approved, so. And that amount was basically because of our neighborhood that was adjoining. So we went with 2-story apartments, we could have gone 4. We kept the height down just so it wouldn't be a nuisance to the residential people behind us, so, as far as owning it or keeping it, I can't tell you, our intent is to keep it. I don't know what's gonna happen in 5 years, 10 years, when we might sell it, that's just part of the development business, but, that's a question, so, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Is buffering between the neighborhoods and the development within our purview? How?
We've met all of us.
Well, I mean, but what are you using to buffer? Like, is it fencing and landscaping?
Fencing, height, we've gone 2-story apartments instead of 3 or 4, so we've done.
Yeah, there's a
There's a
description
requirement.
of in the drawings of a northern landscape buffer, 20-foot width.
Yeah, I see that. I was
49 canopy trees required.
wondering about fencing or whatnot. It does look like these residential lots back up right to it on both the western boundary and northern boundary. I know, I'm not saying you haven't met code, I'm just trying to ask questions that might give the commenter some comfort.
Anything else?
Did you indicate that you were willing to put some more trees back there?
I mean, we're gonna landscape more than what the code's gonna require.
Yes, but it will be way more than what the code requires, I can tell you that. I can get with the residents and let them know exactly what they'll need, and kind of show them the difference, if that will be full plan commission.
A lot of people in the neighborhood expressed that they bought homes in this neighborhood because it wasn't Destin. It wasn't a big city, and you had like some nature and privacy, and that seems to be gone. But it seems like everyone's saying the same sob story throughout Walton County now. Arkansas is the sixth fastest growing county in the United States, and I moved down here about 8 years ago, and it's not the Walton County I knew when I was a child now, and it makes me want to cry. I get where Ms. Bowman is going with her comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And it looks like there's just this line of trees across the back of the property, so.
The site plan that's presented pretty clearly indicates, that's where I mentioned magnolias, the southern magnolias, which are pretty substantial trees when they're mature. It looks like about a third or fourth tree is a magnolia, so,
Looks like some live oaks maybe.
yeah, live oaks and slash pines.
Yeah.
So all those
That's not
trees
our
reach a
problem.
pretty decent height and can get, it's pretty thick.
It's gotta be.
I will say that, you know, for the record, that I'm looking at all of the buffer zones, the northern buffer zone, the western landscape buffer zone, and they indicate that there's a certain number of trees required, and the trees provided equal the number of trees required, so that at least what's indicated on the plan right now, the minimum is being presented, so. Certainly, we just, to be formal, we do encourage you, excuse me, Ms. Bowman, for a second. We do encourage you to go beyond. More trees is not a problem.
Yes. And those trees that are called out are really just in the buffer, there will be additional landscaping.
Okay.
May I ask a question about the tree?
Yes, ma'am, if you would come forward and ask the question, please.
Okay, so you say they intend to put more trees there than are required. May I ask, through you then, if they plan on cutting down all the trees that are there right now and then planting little baby trees? Or are they gonna leave the tall, mature trees that are already there and not cut them down?
The set of plans that we're looking at, and I'll certainly let Mr. Jenkins describe otherwise, but there's a sentence here that says no existing trees to be preserved.
No existing trees to be preserved, so they're gonna cut down all of the mature wood and not put any of the timber tax on it, and then come back and plant little tiny baby trees that don't provide any shade and don't have the strong root system that the mature trees do to hold the land in place. So it seems to me like this is another strip mining operation that's going on, that's what's really going on, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins, do you have anything further to add? Okay. Do we have any other topics that we want to cover, questions of the applicant? Yes. Yes, ma'am. Please, come forward and identify yourself. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip over you.
My name is Angela Frazier, F-R-A-Z-I-E-R. I'm one of Claudia's neighbors. So I just have a couple points, and if they don't pertain to this meeting, please stop me. I wasn't even told about this hearing by the builder or the developer because my property is not within exactly 300 feet. I live in the same plan development. So that feels a little secretive and kind of frustrating given that I'm probably going to be affected by the traffic and the noise and et cetera that will come with the development. So that's a little frustrating. The traffic concerns were mentioned already. With the SEPCO and the Dollar General being right there, this building is very nice, but it seems like it's going to clash with the black and yellow Dollar General and the big orange and yellow SEPCO station, which is, in my opinion, sort of an eyesore on that corner anyhow. It's just going to be a complete, mess. My concerns about, which were already brought up several times, the environmental study, the fact that it is a wetland and our properties do flood every single time it rains. The driveways, they've had to redo the sod on most of the yards.
Ms. Frazier, and I don't mean to cut you off,
No,
but So I would invite you to come to the planning commission meeting, which will be the next meeting after this one. And planning staff can tell you when that'll be, but that would be the appropriate time to address a lot of those issues.
Perfect. My other concerns were about the impact of lighting, coming through the back of the properties. There's a little dog park that, kind of is in one of the corners. I'm not sure if it's on any of these drawings. It's a nice, quiet area. There's lots of kids that play there. I sit there with my dogs. And just last week, there was somebody that climbed the fence into the dog park from 98, which was very concerning. That's a high fence. That's, I have no idea, high, like 8 feet. And we're just gonna be adding more people that will be coming through our property, through that entrance. It's not very secure at all. So I have concerns about that. And again, my last point was that we moved to this area. My husband's in the military, and he was supposed to be here tonight, but is unable to. We moved to this area, and we chose to live down in Long County because it was greener. There's not the same sort of vibe that Destin and Niceville and some of the other communities that are quite nice, they don't have that same. This is a very the greener town, or county, so to speak, which is why we moved here. It's not overdeveloped, or it was less developed, I should say. There's already enough strip malls and bright lights and signs on that area of 98, and it's upsetting to me as a resident that we're just going to add to that right now. So that's me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of lighting, you said there's not a photometric, or there is?
There is not. The information I found, and again, Mr. Jenkins, I try to keep putting you on the spot, but if you could, the only sheet that appears to have any information about lighting is a 5.06. Reference this rendering.
Yes, sir, that was some additional information that staff had asked us to include, talking about the actual light scheme. There is a photometric plan that was done in staff. It may not be part of your package, but it meets all the requirements as far as.
Okay.
It would have been good to see it.
Yeah, like I'm wondering back in the apartment part, that I think I can pretty much get a feel for what the lighting's like on the retail frontage, but
Yeah.
the real impact to the surrounding residential is gonna be, of course, back on the side.
Again,
Height
the
of
renderings are a formal part of the packet, but the renderings, almost all of the renderings have, of the apartments have lights indicated in them. So the spacing in the renderings looks reasonable. I think maybe the lady that just spoke was concerned that there be adequate lighting, not that there be no lighting. Well, certainly, I don't want to put words in your mouth. If
Maybe not adequate lighting. My concern is that there's going to be too much, and there's going to
Okay,
be
that's
cars
what
I'm getting
and
at.
all that
Okay.
other stuff coming through the thin fence. And again, if they're going to be cutting down all these trees and planting new trees, they're not going to. That will be 10 years from now when those are actually providing adequate privacy and shade.
We can't do anything about car lights. I mean,
I understand.
but
It's just ambient, all this extra.
the lighting in the parking areas on the back and, and the side is more, I think,
Unfortunately, I can't see.
What-
Sorry,
yeah.
it's getting to what you're talking about,
Okay,
for sure. Not the cars, but the,
That's what the hedge is designed for.
Yeah.
That's why anywhere there's parking, there has to be a hedge.
Yeah.
is to mute those car lights. So
Okay.
again, it does take a while for that to mature,
Right.
but there's also, anywhere there's parking, there's gonna be a hedge.
Okay, I mean, that makes me feel a little bit better, but again, there's already trees there that are beautiful and mature, and it's frustrating that
There's
they're
a
all.
need for
cut
tall
down.
fence around it, too, so that could be a big light to get on it.
Is there a way we can see the photometric?
Scott, do you have it with you?
I mean, are there, yeah, I don't even see parking, lighting locations unless I'm missing it.
No, it's definitely not in the application.
Because I think car lights are not, and something we can look at, but
Well, almost the
car
entire
lights,
northern
you
side
can't
of
parking.
the property has bays of parking, and that's with the 20-foot buffer, which is, it just reminds me, has a hedge in it, and then the overstory trees.
No, I'm more concerned about. What size, we need to regulate the size, the minimum size that they can plant
Yes.
to replace the existing
Yeah, they-
trees.
Yeah.
So, that should help a little. I would prefer to keep existing trees. It's really hard to build around it. No, I
still doesn't describe it like we normally see it. Yeah, they say they don't have it with them.
Do you have the batteries with you, and I can just go around? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, did Scott find the photometric? Okay.
It's hard to take.
Madam Attorney,
Yes.
does any other committee other than ours review the technical standards for the lighting?
Lighting? That's a good question. I think Mac was probably, I think Mac. Mac, I'm sorry. They, the board had a question. It's okay.
Mac, our question was, do any of the other boards or the technical review committee review the photometric plan for conformance?
Yes.
Having the TRC?
It's part of the technical review committee submittal, it's also part of the planning commission.
Okay. So the TRC has already met and reviewed the project? They go first?
Yes.
Yep. And they forwarded it on to us with their approval?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
I have a question. Did I hear Tim say that this submission utilized, when it came to lighting, the parts of the code that will be under consideration for review?
That was
Feature
prior.
of the previous one we were talking.
Okay.
However, as part of the comments that we got from staff, they recommended that we limit those, and we did.
And you did? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
And Mac, one other question, if it's convenient. I think since there are several folks who have concerns that are probably best addressed by the planning commission, do you have the particular date that this project will be going before the planning commission?
Yes, it's going next Thursday.
Next Thursday, okay. And where will that meeting be?
No, not next Thursday.
That's your one, so this is the next one.
Next month?
May.
Yeah, okay. Just, is that adequate information to the folks in the audience so that you know which meeting you're looking for? It will be the planning.
May 12th is Saturday.
May 10th.
Okay.
May,
And Thursday,
5 PM here in this room.
that's right.
Okay, we've had all the various forms of input. Oh, I'm sorry, yes ma'am, come forward again.
If there is construction and development literally going on in one's backyard, who does one call when, like, workers are out there at hours that aren't appropriate? Because I've called the
Wouldn't that be
sheriff's
code
department
enforcement?
a few times when they were doing, regular house construction in our neighborhood. They've been there like 5:30 AM, they park a side truck in front of my house, and they just sit there for hours with the diesel motor going.
if your complaints about noise, the sheriff's office
You call
is.
the sheriff's, okay, I didn't want top lines, but that was it. And then, also, on like backhoes, I don't know who could pass a law or what can be done, the backhoes and tractors that beep every time they back up. That, I'm literally gonna be insane after if this project gets through in my backyard. Cause they just put a couple of mobile homes back there and just putting those down, the backhoes, it beeps every time it backs up. I don't know if it's a law, they have to be, or if we can ask if this development gets through, if they can disconnect the beepers. Because I guarantee you, no one in this county's ever got run over by a backhoe or a tractor that wasn't beeping. I don't know how to get that law passed, someone can give me.
You need to
Talk
go to
your
Washington.
Congressman, yeah.
I don't mean to sound like a road ragger, but as you know,
I don't have
we don't
enough
regulate
batteries
these. I wish we did.
That's my primary concern for not wanting it in my backyard. Like I said, I've moved my master bedroom 3 times to avoid beeping and noises. I even bought a portable air conditioner that I hooked up so they're running and I don't have to hear the noise. So this is gonna send me over the edge. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
New microphone.
I have a question for staff.
Yes, Kevin.
Mr. Brown, why would it go to technical review with a lighting plan and it didn't get to us with a lighting plan?
They didn't provide one for the inserts. I mean, I can tell you it's in compliance,
Mhm.
because the code actually allows a lot when it comes to planning. It's 10-foot candles at the property line.
Mhm.
That's like an indoor stadium.
Yeah.
It's
Really
very-
That is the reason that I brought the revisions
Very
up,
right.
is that it's,
Right.
it's entirely inconsistent with almost every other aspect of our code. Thank you.
Well, and it's also in chapter 5, not in chapter 13. That's why this process of updating 13, we're gonna actually have a standard in the chapter 13 for the scenic corridor. But currently, that lighting standard is in chapter 5.
Yep.
They're supposed to provide the photometric plan for the insert. That just didn't happen with this item, but I assure you, it is in compliance.
Well, and the reason I'm asking is because it seems like every meeting we've had, we've talked about lighting. You know, it's been a constant, yeah, it's been a constant, concern and conversation.
Residents that's gonna live next door to it. That's why through this ordinance review process, you know, we're bringing the light stands down, we're changing the color, so it's a softer, right? Softer color.
Warmer.
Let me say this,
Warmer color.
my
Okay. I
concern
get that
really,
backwards.
my concern really isn't about the standard itself, it's just, why don't we have it look at, because I know we've spent a lot of time on lighting, and I mean, which I don't necessarily understand, David's the expert on it, but we spent a lot of time in lighting, and we've made people go back and come back,
Yes.
you know, just based on lighting, and I really don't feel comfortable that we haven't seen, you know, the lighting plan ourselves, but technical review saw it, and we don't get to see it, and for us to vote on it, and then, you know, something come up later, you know.
Well,
And I'm just asking
I
a
think
question why we
The
don't
an-
have it.
The answer is the applicant didn't provide. it.
Okay, now,
If I can address that as the agent, I'm all about blaming staff, trust me, but it's not their fault. So it actually is something that we left out of the package.
okay,
We provided the lighting information that they had asked for. I didn't realize we had to provide the actual lumen drawing that we did, because I thought once it made through technical review, that was a requirement. But we can certainly do it for planning commission and forward, so.
well, and not that technical review is, you know, slacking on the job or anything like that, but it's went through technical review first, gotten to us, and we review it and look at it, and it's, you know, like I said, we're lighting up a stadium on this end, and
When was it at technical review? What,
Oh, goodness, it's been probably.
because we may be able to pull it up from,
Yeah.
from what we
It's
have
actually
on
been a while
Granicus.
since it was at technical review, because we were revising some of the architecture for that, but, probably.
Well, I mean, if you wanna take a short recess, I can make copies for the board if you'd like. The photometric plan's in the file.
Yeah.
It just wasn't in the inserts that the applicant provided.
and Mr. Chair, if it's all right with you, I'd like to do that.
Sure. We can take a brief, is 5 minutes enough? And I don't know that we have to all have our own copy.
No.
If we could just have one
Just
copy
one
to
copy.
pass
We'll
around,
pass it
that'd be
around.
great.
We'll just flip it around here real quick. Don't go make
Okay,
copies.
we are in a 5-minute recess to a structure that
Which
then
is what I was worried
height
about.
and carries it.
I don't know
And so that's what they do. I think it's
size, I can't
crazy.
Right.
specifically remember, or maybe
The water
it's
ought to
just
go
like
underground
frontage is
there.
It's so big, yeah.
But I was like, oh, thank God, they don't,
They don't look
they
massive.
don't look
Yeah,
massive,
everyone uses
yeah.
little drainage
Yeah, we were
structures.
out there for the ocean film.
Yeah, okay.
On some sites,
Yeah.
they also sell
And
it.
yeah, it does, it works. I was like, the summer league.
It's in the specs.
That was, because I was like,
I know. So far, there's really only a couple.
yep, yep, the gotchas that we,
Yep.
which is why we're so, I think we've gotten so finicky about trying to full packet, because we don't want anyone gotchas.
Make sure the drawings are to scale.
Yes, like that was my big takeaway from the,
Yeah.
you know, what's the thing is that,
Yeah, I do. Yeah, every time I drive by.
Yeah,
this is that we can hear in the future.
and
Really
we're not,
discussing.
we're not, we're on break.
But, that,
Okay, well, we will resume when Mr. Brown returns.
No, Coy, we have to wait until we're back in session. Sorry. No, because right now we can't
We're
have that discussion.
Every time.
Okay.
We'll have to ask. I believe they are.
We used to run about 7 states with 3 federal licenses, 15 commercial.
Yeah. No. I knew we talked about that. Thanks. Well, thanks.
All I could find was
Do you know what you're looking at?
24 by 30.
Well, and guess what? By the time we get done,
Get rid of that big number that we've got.
by the time we get to David, we'll know. Okay.
I don't even know. I am, but I won't really hire somebody to do it. I just keep my licenses, but it's-
Yeah, the numbers around, if it's in foot candles, they'll be around 2 or 3.
you don't have
Oh, the height of the,
pocket like we did for so many years. Let me see if that last page. So we got 98 of these.
Yeah, see, this is why this.
You got 98 of these and 29, so you got 100 in there.
I mean, it's a huge split, but still, like, I guess every dot is unique.
It's 15 acres.
Yeah.
And 15 acres is not that big much land.
It looks like the dots are pictures.
And I don't know what lumens, you know, David will know when.
over 3.
It's 14,000.
Oh, yeah, that would be the lumens on the ground. These are the numbers. So you can see
Yeah,
most
so
of them
that's
are
at the
point.
bulb,
Yeah, that is,
14,000.
yes, and that's what the new code, that is the budget. And that's why that new style of code is more effective. But, so you're down in the zeros and 0.2, 0.3, 0.5, I don't see any.
See, but here's a 2, right on the line,
Ooh, yes.
and that's where she is.
Yes.
2.5, 2.4, 2.1.
I'm sorry, I'm trying not to do it. It just hurts so bad.
The rest do look pretty low.
We're not in session yet, are we?
No. Actually, I guess we should be.
Where's
Okay.
Karen? This is probably, yes, sir.
Okay, I am going to call session back in because we are starting to talk about the lighting plan here. So, the DRB is back in session, and for the audience's benefit, we are looking at the photometric chart. Most of the northern boundary is down below 1, which is good. However, on the western end, where there is a single apartment building that is, on this drawing, is quite close to the property corner. That's interesting. We do have at the property line, and I know this is within the current Chapter 5 allowance, but it is up at 1.2, there's one measure off of the property line. We're at 2.1, which is,
It's close to that fixture on the side of the building, I think, is where you're. And I think right behind it is the neighborhood that she's talking about. This is the building? Yep.
So there's nothing at the property line because there's a building there.
Mr. Jenkins,
Yeah.
just, and I'm speaking for myself, not necessarily the board, but, I'm not questioning your integrity or anything on this, wanting to see it, but I don't sign my name on anything that I hadn't read.
Yes, sir.
And my vote for this is a signature of So, and that's really what I'm questioning. I
Oh,
just- I wanna
absolutely,
see-
absolutely understand, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that corner is the biggest concern.
It's not a pool.
Maybe a
It
fountain.
says brick pavers here, and maybe a fountain, yes. Right in front of, or towards 98 from Building 1, so south of Building 1, is that a fountain? Oh, I'm sorry, the residential Building 1, the apartment, up in the top, the northeast corner, or northwest corner, I'm sorry. That's a fountain in front of that, or what is it? Between that? Okay, between that and Building, okay. Okay.
Which is why the lights are higher.
The lights are higher there.
Okay, so, good news is that on the light fixtures themselves on the northern boundary are placed at the rear end, if you consider a car head end. In other words, closer to the middle of the parking lot than they are to the property line. They're on the bump out landscape projections. That's a good thing. So, I guess, Mr. Jenkins, the bottom line comment would come down to, it's just the last fixture in this corner, on the east side of the apartment building that's tucked into the northwest corner. That one right there. If, if there could be some accommodation to just lower the lighting level at this corner, at that point, you pretty much have a
Do you know the corner?
zero or close to it.
No.
It's the
Building-
other
Yeah,
corner.
Building
it's
one-
the north, yeah, the north, no,
No.
this northwest building,
Just on the east side
northeast
of the
corner of the
building.
northwest building.
East side.
Other end. Between the two.
Right there,
There.
that's
There
it.
you go.
There's a fixture over there that, yeah. For whatever reason, there's a fixture, I guess these are throwing an asymmetrical pattern, because,
So about the bulb and how it projects out.
yeah.
I mean, it's.
And it could be you just simply has put a shield on that fixture, so that it doesn't throw light at the neighbors.
Yeah, we can absolutely accommodate that.
Yeah.
I'll work that
That'd be right.
Okay. Does anybody else want to take a look at this? Tom?
You're fine.
Lourdes? All right. All right.
Our lighting expert,
Well,
like it or not.
okay. Okay, and Karen, do you need this for the record, or is this this is part of the staff's packet? Okay, so I guess just for the record, we were reviewing a drawing dated July 26, 2017, by Tommy Lee, who I used to work with. Don't recognize the company, Visual. Yeah, thank you. Not the drummer, for the record. The lighting designer.
I was figuring.
He's from Pensacola. Okay, this would be round 3 of me asking about any other questions, so I think we've reached the point that unless there are any questions from the board, we're ready to make a decision of some sort.
I move that we approve with the condition that the lighting be shielded to bring down the candle, foot candle at the northeast corner of the northwest building.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Do we have any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who gave us input.
You still up, Mr. Jenkins?
Okay, next item is the Mercy Multiplied Women's Center.
Yes, thank you. This is a major development order application requesting approval to develop approximately not sure why it's approximate, but approximately a 22-room women's center and associated infrastructure improvements on 11.6 acres with the future land use of VMU. It's located just up the way here. You could walk from here.
Which we recommend.
Walking.
Walking, yes, absolutely. This project is in compliance with the scenic corridor regulations, and I will entertain any questions you may have. It's literally a stone's throw away.
Okay, Mr. Jenkins, you're up.
Again, yes, sir. Scott Jenkins, Jenkins Engineering, Jenkins. Really, really cool project. Really excited to be part of it. It's a great cause. This actually has already been through the Planning Commission, and it's scheduled to go to the Board of County Commissioners. But this is basically a women's center for women in transition. It's a property that's put together by a not-for-profit group, Mercy Multiplied, out of Nashville, Tennessee. And it's something that's just looks great. It's at the foot of the bridge here, right at South Walton, and I think it's great for the community, and it's great for the town center area here also. Just to show you the site plan quickly, and Mauricio Castro is also the architect of this project. The project itself is on about 11 acres. State forest is directly adjacent here. There is some private lands here and the new apartments. The sanctuary is just to the north of this also, so adjacent. This is the property that's being developed here. It's just this one corner right now. They will likely do future phases. They just don't know what these buildings are going to be yet throughout. But this is the primary structure. It runs along 331. It will have some security here, so they have 2 access points for that, just to provide extra security, so that they can get people in just to this portion if they do come further out here. There is a large existing pond that was man-made at this point that they're going to use for the stormwater. It's just a really, really cool project. We're glad to be part of it, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. We have Mauricio here to answer architectural questions, and we'll have some color and material samples if you have any questions for that. Yes, sir.
Have you planned an electrical transformer for the entrance?
We have not done a transformer yet.
Okay.
We have to get those plans to Gulf Power, so not yet.
Facetious.
Yeah.
We got a beautiful entrance on the building just north of that, and on the entrance just north of that, and right in the middle of it is a big.
And a gigantic
Yeah.
transformer. I know exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
So-
Yeah. This will have some security, but we'll require that kind of transformer. They're pretty large.
Is that hardy plank or what is that?
Receive?
The board button? The vertical?
It'll be boarded back, to answer your question, yes.
And can we see the color samples?
So you're seeing here the trim color and the body color, if you will.
Is that super yellow?
It's part of the Munsell, the,
And then this is the roof material, just standard material.
lighting is, it's a tricky color.
Yeah, it's totally different outside. It's pretty harsh in here.
And they're both hardy plank?
No, they're.
The
this
board
is
bed
one
looks
that-
what?
The material
Yeah,
will be hardy.
it's hardy, okay. And the other ones too.
They're
the exact same
There's,
color?
maintenance
Same
and doing the exact same thing we have.
Yeah. Can we go outside?
And you can't see outside what color it's going to be, because that looks really bright yellow to me.
Yeah. It's lemon lime?
The reason why our client selected the color, I was thinking, they have this whole notion of how girls may feel like they want to be welcoming, they want to have something that may look too white or sterile, it would work for them, so they just wanted to have something that was more playful.
Happy.
That's exactly what it is. So the colors came from that notion that they need to be happy, inviting buildings.
Yeah.
And
lot of yellows.
Yeah, there, that's,
Yeah.
that's right. There's a lot of happy colors that, you know,
I don't have a problem with
it's
yellow.
good, you know, I mean, it just has a little bit of this green that
Lime
makes it a
green.
little bit, you know,
Now,
doesn't
I
it?
know our builder took the Mouncil and tried to match this.
I know it's in the Monso colors, but.
I understand. What I'm trying to say is, it could be also an issue of lighting, and I'm not defending 100% the choice, but I'm trying to pick this color, we play with it.
Do we have the Monso color that matches that? So we know exactly what the color
It's just on
shade
the drawing,
is?
we can pull it out and let you know which color it is.
Yeah.
Are you looking
Yeah, the chip. Because it might be the lighting here that makes that, yeah, you know,
I think it's-
because it affects.
Looks like
it
it's
affects
painted
the
on
color.
gloss too.
Madam Attorney, is it okay if a couple members, are they, would it need to be one at a time for anyone who's interested in looking at the color outside to just step out?
Yeah, we either have to do one at a time or all go together.
Okay, all right.
I'm fine with
Second
that.
grade.
I guess another question for staff, what happens if we open that door?
Well, if we all go together, the only problem is Karen's recording.
Okay, well, I just meant, I didn't know if, is that door operable without setting some sort of
Mac, I
alarm
don't
on?
know, do you?
Just because the color might change completely with this light,
Yeah,
you know, that's
yeah,
what I'm afraid
it
of.
likely does.
And if it's a little more, if it's a little more muted, I'm,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, yeah, it's just that it's bringing out a little bit of green.
Yeah,
kind
why don't y'all,
I can see
I
what
mean, hopefully that door opens since it is an emergency exit.
Is that gloss? Yeah,
That's about the color, yeah, that's about the color what it looks like.
Yeah, Lourdes,
There you go.
Lourdes, it's already looking better closer to the window.
See, that's the color.
Well, I don't know. I didn't say. I said better.
I'd like to see it light creamier.
Me too.
I'm really yellow, but wow, that's get the yellow color. It's just, to me, it was the green tint that was coming through.
Did anyone go out with him?
No, I think
Okay.
it's just Scott.
Yep. If y'all are interested, the color's outside now.
All right, everybody wanted.
Well, I guess one at a time. I think one at a, maybe Lourdes, you want to run out and?
One of the still sunny out there, and not dark, like it.
I know, like the light.
Cause that's a lot of that
Yes,
on the, so if it's bright, it's gonna be a lot bright,
right,
not a bright.
right. This is nice.
Uh-huh.
But it's not got green in it.
Yeah. No, the rendering looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that is a good yellow on the rendering.
Yeah, the red is not bad at all.
Lee, did you want to go look?
It changes completely.
Good.
Say that again. Let me get that for you.
It doesn't, the green doesn't come through.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, it's the glossy paint too. You're never gonna paint it glossy.
Yeah.
Why ask why?
That could be in the budget.
I'll stick, I was gonna say, I'm gonna stick to landscaping and lights
Yeah, I'm
today.
fine with
I'll lay off the color.
Landscape and lighting guru, we got
It's
the
way
color
better, it's
guru
much nicer.
here.
Which makes me wonder about every other color that we see in here.
It is a lot different, isn't it?
Yes,
Yes.
it's completely different.
That's
No,
why I
that's-
have
that
such a
says something
fixation.
about
The
colors,
accurate
you know?
color rendering is really
Color,
4,000 Kelvin, it starts to run out. You can't really tell what things look like.
Yeah.
you know, if you look at a color down this way and then you lift it up this way, it's
Yeah,
completely different.
Yeah.
Depending on how the light
You know, on
hits
one
it.
of those, you know what Kelvin they say use
4? Yeah, that's pretty good.
in an office, the ideal Kelvin,
Yeah,
I think we're good.
yeah.
Seeing a pattern.
But it is,
but it's a little white in a residential
yeah, yeah.
setting.
That's 4,000 K is pretty close to daylight.
I put some 4 on my boat.
Yeah. Depending on the type of light you have that day, overcast. Okay.
All right, Donna,
Uh,
what do you think? It's better.
I think a lot of yellow.
It
a big building with a lot of yellow. Could we cream it up a little bit? Or do you have any other options that?
I don't mind it. I know it's gonna be a little.
It drives past it.
That's the color. If it looks like that,
Ten
it's
white,
just
nine
a, you know, a yellow building with white trim.
You got a good bit of roof breaking it up
Yeah, and
too.
then there's gonna be shadows.
And
There's
windows.
gonna be, the yellow's
Yep.
gonna change, it's not gonna be all like a flat yellow. It's got a lot of shade, a
It's
lot
got the
of
batten too.
awnings. The battens are gonna give it, and the hardy plank, the new hardy plank, it's got a nice shadow underneath,
It's got a wood
like, you know,
texture.
the
For each
nature
plank.
on the horizontal planks. They're a lot thicker, so it gives you like the shadow that the wood used to give, the same, which the early hardy plank didn't have. They had a,
It looked a lot better out there than it did in here, I think.
Do you like it? Do you like
I
it?
think so too. I mean,
Yeah,
you like it?
I like it.
Donna,
I'm not
Vote your
a
conscience,
yellow
Donna.
person,
I mean, it is a lot.
but also I can't say, I can't impose my color.
Right.
No, I don't like
It's 'cause you're back in here. Luckily, that building is not gonna be in here.
Now, so this is our official Munsell.
it. No, I think, I mean, it's, you know, I can't impose the
First, my
color
living
that
room
I
is yellow.
want, that I like, you know, or else I'd be, you know, doing the building, but the thing is that what I saw there is a nice yellow. And it's in keeping with what our Munsell colors allow.
I understand. And again, the notion was they wanted to make it really inviting and happy. And it's part of the theme. We were able to, just to talk about the size of the building, when we began designing the building, it was all supposed to be one bigger building. And we were able, through the process, to break it down into 3 buildings. So, you know, it didn't look like this big mass object, which we think is better for.
Well, that's a lot better because you scale it down to a human scale and it makes it much more inviting.
Right.
And it's not, it doesn't feel so institutional,
Correct.
Yes.
you know,
That's the idea.
so.
Okay, well, I guess I have my standard question for the day, which is, was a lighting plan part of the TRC packet? And could we learn a little bit about the? And this project not having single-family residences, to my knowledge, directly adjacent to it, it's all institutional land around it, so a little bit of a different standard in terms of the.
The only lighting proposed for the development was really the things that were on the exterior of the building and low-level landscape lighting.
Yeah.
They don't really have any proposed, like.
Pole-mounted lights or.
If you would say.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And again, I'm more comfortable if TRC reviewed it and it was code compliant and your description is.
Yeah, I don't see much lighting just on the.
Here's my thing, HVAC equipment, is it all on the ground? I'm not used to looking at these schematics, so.
Oh, it's a A4.05, there's a whole sheet on it, Lee. I'm not kidding. There's a whole sheet on the, yeah.
I'm just not
Yep.
used to looking at these.
Okay.
They're gonna start writing your name on the sheet.
Yeah. Actually, 2 sheets on, 2 sheets on the screening.
Really
I just couldn't tell what I was looking at.
Yeah, that's it.
It's gonna be allowed
The point is you
restaurant
can't
with
see,
algae
you
on
can't see them, that's the point.
No, but I thought that before a minute.
Yeah.
On the ground.
And it turned out that was the pedestal that the thing was gonna be mounted on, yes.
You have a jet going off.
It is a lot of moving, or Rosie might jump up in the air.
Okay, and I didn't mean to send Mac running for the plans, but,
He did go through.
yep.
They've been doing this 12 hours today.
Do you have any other questions we can discuss while he's gone? Or do we recess again?
We have not recessed, so if we don't have other questions for the applicant, you know, if everybody's comfortable with, oh, yes, Ms. Bowman, come on up.
Let's get all this taken care of.
Did you just say that they plan on putting their air conditioning unit in the basement?
No,
On the ground.
Okay, but it'll,
On the
okay.
ground.
they're ground mounted and
Oh.
screened.
Okay, because you said underneath something, and I thought I heard underground.
Okay, nope,
No, on the ground versus on the roof.
on the ground.
Okay. Can I make a comment about this as well?
It's your project, yes,
Which
ma'am.
is that nobody wants this here. Nobody wants a rehab center in the middle of what's supposed to be like, well, first of all, forest. I mean, I don't know how long y'all have been here. I've been here my whole life. And there's a sign that says, you know, welcome to Point Washington State Forest. And it's just to the south of this lot. However, that sign actually used to be right by the driveway, what is now Sanctuary by the Sea. Like the state or somebody, maybe in the middle of the night, came along and moved that sign. Oh, I don't know. It must have been 20 years ago. But all of this is forest, and it's not supposed to be built on. Sanctuary by the Sea wasn't supposed to be built. It doesn't have any legitimate documents. This, although the documents don't seem to have anything like immediately apparently wrong with them, I'm sure after looking at them long enough, I could find something. Nobody wants rehabilitation here. You know, Bay County has the biggest drug problem in the world. We're trying to get rid of drug addicts, not invite them here. And then they said something about security, extra security at this place. Like, so does that mean
Ms.
that
Bowman,
my
I'm sorry,
dad is
you're-
going to have to worry
you're getting-
about addicts breaking out and breaking into his house?
You're getting too far afield for the scope of our meeting, please. So,
Okay, well, I just wanted to say that nobody wants this here, and it certainly doesn't belong here. And I don't see why anybody would move into these brand-new apartments next door when they've got drug addicts rehabbing next to them. So, once again, this is just something that totally shouldn't be done. And
Thank
it
you,
doesn't
Ms.
matter what color you paint it, it's gonna look awful because it's not trees.
okay. Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Okay, Tim. Go ahead, Lee. I'm sorry.
I'm looking at the landscape plan. Is this, it looks like there are crepes for the most part along the frontage.
Yes, and there's a note about power lines.
Okay, so we're a power line situation.
Yes. Am I correct, staff, that there's a power line issue here? So the 18 live oak trees required, 18 provided, but they are replaced with crepe myrtles due to overhead utilities.
You're better at finding those notes than I am, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's right.
There's oaks all over this lot.
Yes. Okay, Tim, if you would, the photometric plan and the TRC report?
I couldn't find one.
Okay.
This is not my project. I just did the scenic corridor review. I went through the file. I don't, but Scott says he provided one, but I can't find one.
Okay.
We did, unfortunately, I don't have it with me in
Yeah.
our information, but it was with Bob, I think, so,
Okay.
sorry.
That's understood, so. Okay.
Scott, is there lighting in the parking area, or is it just on the buildings? Yeah, okay.
All right.
So I guess, are we comfortable with the lighting since it's just on the building? We don't have any.
Well, again, my some reassurance is that it meets the minimum standards as TRC has reviewed it, and it will be considered again at the planning commission meeting. That
Well,
it's
it's actually been to the planning commission. The next stop will be the county commission.
Oh, okay. So we are the last stop. All right.
So does it comply with the ones that are the draft version, or does it comply with the current one?
Well, from
It would actually be over and above your current requirements because it's light, so we
Yeah.
actually don't have any photo lights.
the only issue is we're we're relying on the staff and applicant's assurances, which I have, in this particular case, since they were not single-family residences immediately adjacent to it, I'm comfortable with that, speaking for myself.
So in the parking lots, there's no lighting, it's just on the.
And I guess what I'd say is the packet that we received doesn't indicate any lighting whatsoever, so, should there be lighting on the project that we're
It just
not
shows it on the
conform-
building.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no
Yeah.
site lighting whatsoever,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Okay,
Just what's mounted to the building.
Right.
Yeah. So. Okay, so I'm comfortable, if that means anything to you. Good, okay.
I'm comfortable as long as there's no lighting on the parking lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's none shown in the packet. Okay, that brings us, we've had public comment. Do we have any other questions or comments for the staff? All right, anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to public workshop to discuss amending Chapter 13 of the Walton County Land Development Code, specifically those portions pertaining to site and signage and lighting. What is the will? Do we want to get into it tonight, or do we want to move it along? Well, let me ask, before we do that, let's ask, there's one additional business item on the agenda that has a fair number of exhibits. So the introduction to the Blake at Miramar Beach for DRB feedback. Staff, what do you think that'll take time-wise?
I really don't know because we haven't been shown the presentation in advance, but this is also one of the things we're proposing to
Yes.
beef up in the ordinance, was if you want to get feedback from the board, come and present it before you actually.
No, it's a great
So
thing,
that's what
yeah.
they're, but how long, you'll have to ask them.
Okay.
I don't know how long it's gonna
Yeah.
take.
Well, what, you'll just in the interest of caution, should we continue the public
Please.
workshop and?
Please.
Okay, all right, well, let's get a motion going then.
I'd make a motion to continue the public workshop till 2019. Just kidding, to the next,
Meeting, okay.
to the May meeting, May 2018.
Yes, okay. All right, probably moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That brings us to additional business. So, if, staff, do you have any introduction beyond what you already gave us? All right.
I can give you a little bit.
Okay.
They've actually downsized the project, so they haven't actually we just got the plans in yesterday. It was like 150, I can't remember, it was like 300,000 square feet. It's less than that now. They've downsized it, but it's on, the north side of Highway 98 at, what's the
Ponce de
word? Yeah, Ponce de Leon, I thought that was right. You probably noticed if you drive that area, it was previously being used as a DOT laydown yard. DOT has moved all that west now. Actually, if you go that way, it's right next to McDonald's now. The lot immediately east of McDonald's has been approved for their laydown yard, so they moved a lot of that equipment from this site to that site. That's the best I can do in terms of introduction, because I haven't actually reviewed their new plan, but their new plan is a reduction from their original plan. But it's senior living.
Correct, assisted living memory care.
Is that at Golf Garden? Is that where that is? Or
I'm sorry?
Is that at the Golf Garden, or is it next door to that?
No, it's right in the corner. It's the northeast corner of Ponce de Leon and Highway 98. So I can't remember now what's on the west side.
Mattress Firm.
Mattress Firm? Okay, yeah, Mattress Firm.
The new building.
The new mattress firm. I was like, which mattress firm?
This is across from Stock and Trade.
So the Ace Hardware and the bike store, et cetera, all right in there.
Where
I thought it went. You can
close to a restaurant? Is there a restaurant?
Close to
Just
Executive
hungry.
Car Wash,
There you
and then you got all those
I know
little
exactly where it
restaurants
is.
there.
I know exactly.
That's
where it is.
across the way, right?
Chick-fil-A.
Actually, Cinco de
McDonald's.
Mayo has went out of business there. So you've got Aegean, the Greek restaurant, you've got,
Oh, across
breakfast, the
street from that.
breakfast place. And then, of course, like Tom said, Executive Car Wash. On the other side, you've got Buffalo Jack's.
Yeah, okay. Don't you have a Royal Orchid?
Yeah.
Further down?
It's- yeah.
Buffalo
Little
Jack's,
plaza.
Royal Orchid, Shinkishi, on that one.
Dippin' Dots.
Yeah, that's where Buffalo Jack's is.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
right across South Geronimo.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's just a little west of this.
The melting pot.
It's a little
It's
further
further, it's a little further west, and it's on the opposite, it's on the same side of the road as this is, but what they're talking is on the south side of 98. This is on the north side.
We ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, take it away.
Sure, so name is Michael Fitz, F-I-T-T-Z, with Arrive Architecture. We're the architect. Also with us, you may already be familiar with Steve Griggs with Legendary, and then have Andy, who's with the Operator Quality Senior Living. I think you should have the site plan and these elevations in your packet, hopefully in front of you. They'll be clear. Effectively, just want to introduce you to the Blake itself. We're a 125 unit assisted living memory care facility, approximately 115,000 square feet, 2-story building. Other than that, we just wanted, this is a resort style senior living community, so wanted to put the elevations and the plans in front of you and get any feedback or thoughts before we formally come to stand before you again in May.
Back to the elevations.
Shown here, so what you see that says the west elevation, that would be the elevation facing Ponce de Leon. And then what I've zoomed in on below that, the south elevation will be what faces 98. Correct. So there's approximately a 2.6 acre out parcel. It'll be the southern portion that actually borders 98. And so this will be part of the first phase, which is on the northern portion of that lot.
Just so the board knows, a portion of it is within the 400-foot scenic corridor. So anytime a portion is in, we consider the whole thing to be in. So that's why it has to have design review board approval, but it does not front right onto 98. It sits back.
What color were you thinking about?
Yeah, so it's probably hard to see in these renderings or anything if you've got a paper printout. The colors are a pretty neutral palette. It's a white for the field color, and then the accents, you see the parapets that step forward. Those right now it's just I would say kind of a paled gray.
Okay.
And then, so they're exposed rafter tails, brackets, columns, kind of some of the feature elements. Right now, those are shown in black. And then we've got some metal roof accent pieces as well. You'll see that's a standing seam that's shown.
Is it stucco?
Yes, correct. All stucco veneer.
What's the roof?
The roof is the majority of it's a dimensional asphalt shingle. And then there's standing seam metal roof on like dormers, some of the porches that you see kind of towards the edges, and then at the main entrance, which is where the tower feature sits.
So as an accent, you're using the standing seam.
Correct.
And then you have the shutters are black.
Correct.
is what's facing Ponce de Leon? Is that?
Correct.
Is that like the front view of it, basically?
Yes, correct. That's the front entrance of the building. That's correct. Yeah,
So is this a 3-story building, or is it 2 stories? at
two
the top?
stories. 2 stories.
And those dormers on top of the roof, is that?
Simply ornamental, decorative. That's in an effort to get a more vertical feel to what could potentially be a really horizontal read on the building.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like you've done a really good job of breaking it by putting the patterns. I think, in my view, I think it might be a little bit too busy. And I think that, you know, especially in, which one's the one where the main entrance is with the tower?
That's the west elevation.
That's the west elevation. I think that you could not do the dormers, and I think it'd be fine. In my opinion, the other, because to a certain extent, this reads like a big building. It is going to be a big building. You're not going to make it small, and to a certain extent, you've got to let it be, you know, clean and just. You've done those parapets are like breaking it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you leave the roof clean, it might, you know, it simplifies it.
Okay.
In my opinion. Besides, you know, it'll cost less.
I couldn't figure out.
When I care about my clients. But I don't know how you guys feel about it.
I agree. I think I'd say it's busy, and that, God, the tower's awesome.
Yeah. So
Tower bothered you?
The style.
so
Oh, the
so
style?
to
It's just the top, it looks a little bit.
I'll tell you
Hey,
what.
you can blame it on me.
Say it.
I see it. It looks like something from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
You know,
Versus
a Harry
coastal.
Potter movie.
Versus
coastal. You know.
okay.
I mean, I think it's pretty, it's
Yeah, it is. It's nice.
in general, but there are a couple things
Yeah.
about it that take it away from the coastal vernacular. I think those dormers, well, that
Yeah.
just makes it busy, but.
Well, I think also I know that roof style in terms of the tower, at the top of the tower. I like it because it's just refreshing, different, but it's also used in Rosemary Beach, I think, in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Gibbs did that, and
Mm-hmm.
a pool has exactly that tower. But I don't mind it because it really creates an entrance. And what I do have an issue is, and I do, like I said, the breaking it up with the
little Dutch gables?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine, but some of the Dutch gables get to be too much. You know, sort of like maybe the ornamentation can be simplified again.
Mhm.
You know, and I would think, especially that elevation, that bottom elevation, this is sort of like, I don't know, you might want to simplify a little bit.
Okay.
The exterior landscaping is really predominantly to soften the parking and things like that. And then, if I'm reading the plans correctly, there are 2 open courtyards in the middle of the building?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So those are really the spaces for the residents? Yeah.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
Yep. It's nice. Okay. And
So-
Tim, how much of the I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so I was just going to say, I was just going to make sure that it was clear when looking at the plan, the tower piece and the main entrance is facing Ponce de Leon and not 98.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And we don't know what the future development between you and 98 will be at this point, I'm guessing?
Correct.
Okay. Tim, how much of the property is in the scenic corridor? It looks like, I'm guessing it would all of it is?
Oh, I'm sorry, as
Oh.
far as I'm concerned, the whole island should be scenic corridor.
Yes, we agree with you. Unfortunately, we only stretch a couple hundred feet off the road.
Honestly, David, I can't remember when it
Okay.
first came
I
in.
mean, if it's the applicant's intent that,
When we did the pre-application meeting, we talked about how only a portion of it fell within the 400 feet, and I informed them, well, if a portion is in, then we consider the whole thing is
Yeah.
in the scenic corridor. But to answer your question, I don't know off the top of my head.
It looks like it's about,
From the
About
intersection of
yeah.
98 and Ponce de Leon to the southwestern property line, it's approximately 280 feet.
Yeah.
And then as you go east, that dimension grows to
Yep.
about 335,
Yep.
340. So I would say that the southern one-third of the
Is in there.
structure itself may fall within that.
Yeah.
scene.
Okay.
And I'm Andy Yarborough with Quality Senior Living.
Okay.
YARBOROUGH. And just for some further background too, we appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to come in here for early feedback. In dispatching Michael to help derive these elevations, some of the design intent that we gave him to follow, we really kind of canvassed a lot of the new retail development that we've seen in the scenic corridor, and we tried to model the architecture to a certain degree on some of what we consider to be some of the more tasteful stuff that we've seen
Yeah.
on 38 and recently. So kind of the chocolate and vanilla color schemes, tower features.
I like the tower.
Yeah.
I just see a bird.
I have one more comment. I don't know if again, it's my opinion, the light gray does anything for me in terms of the parapets. I think it would probably be cleaner if it was just all be white, because the parapets themselves create the shade and shadow and differentiate it, and it would be much more subtle if you had it all the same color. You know, because you're gonna have the black shutters and the black balcony accents, those are gonna pop.
I'd say, I like the architecture. I think you did a great job of pulling those good elements, and I just think, and we've addressed this with other developments in the past that might have had like 4, 5, 6 different colors on the exterior, and it just starts to get busy. And I think this overall, that's where you're trying to kind of calm it down. It's almost like the good architectural features can get a little bit lost because there's so much going on. So I think you'll, like you said, things will pop more and really kind of, but I think just calming it down based on her suggestions would go a long way.
Yeah, no,
I don't think there's anything wrong with it, is what I'm saying. It's got good, it's good stuff.
and what's proportions in terms of the widths? You know, I mean, if your bays maybe are the same width, then they become more, accent. I mean, some of them become too wide, and you know, other ones are, you probably wanna make them a little similar in that. And one more detail that I was looking at is in that, I don't know which one it is. North elevation. You have the last pavilion, and it's got brown windows and then arched windows underneath. You might wanna get rid of the arched windows and the brown windows, just make them simple, you know, because it's just, it doesn't go with anything else.
Yeah, that was actually a part of our internal discussion this morning,
Yep.
was changing the circular windows
Uh-huh.
to a leg arch window or an arch window to match those below it. What lives behind those round windows is our chapel. And so part of the reason that they were round in the original design
Right.
iteration was the idea that they would be leaded glass. And it was more of a feature interior to the building than exterior to the building. But our consensus this morning, we kind of agree as well that mirroring the arch shape bottom to top would look better.
Well, I was actually saying eliminate all the arches, because there's nothing arched windows or anything in the whole development, you know, in the whole building that I can see. But if you're saying there's a chapel behind it, I mean, I wonder, you know, I have a tendency to make the exterior be emphasized, you know, reflect what's inside. And, you know, it seems like there's 3 round windows, and I take it the chapel is as long as the 3 round windows there. And your pavilion is taking on 2 windows and 2 arch windows underneath. This is in the north elevation. You almost wonder whether the chapel should have its own volume, you know, as a piece. I don't know.
You mean a separate building? What do you mean?
No, just
How it's
somehow,
asymmetrical between the 2 on the parapet and the 1 to the side of it.
Right, I mean,
Yep, I
you know,
follow you.
it should, I mean, somehow, there might be a way that, you know, you de-emphasize the other pavilions that you're making, you know, those frontage and make a little bit more of something for that chapel,
Yep.
you know? It's just a suggestion, I don't know. It's something that you're gonna have to resolve on your own. But overall, it's a nice project.
And I want to
Appreciate y'all's
Yes.
feedback.
Yep.
We plan to continue to render a couple of different concepts, and grateful for the fact that your suggestions are taking some costs out of it. That's unusual.
Well,
Okay.
and I wanted
And if-
to just quickly say that, thank you for saving us some time on the back end.
Yes, sir.
Because very few people take this time to come and do it, I mean, get feedback ahead of time, rather than, you know, 2 or 3 revisions and coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back. So,
Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Yep, we
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank
And when y'all do come in with the packet, please do have a complete packet.
And I have a photometric plan tonight, just
Okay,
just,
okay, yeah.
just if that gets me bonus points.
Yes, good. Yes. Good.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anything else to come before this board? Oh, certainly. That one wasn't, Ms. Bowman, just for your knowledge, that was an informational item for us, so we took no formal action, but certainly you can comment on it.
First, I find it really amusing that you all sit in here and talk about colors and shapes of buildings that won't be built when we're all being exposed to massive amounts of radiation. I would like to point out that this paperwork clearly says that whoever it was that first purchased this land does not own half of the oil, gas, and mineral rights underneath it. So now what happens when you build a building on this? Is somebody just going to frack right underneath all the old people? And this new microwave fracking that they're using here is just going to knock off all those Alzheimer's people early? Like, do they know that somebody else, St. Joe, owns half of what's underneath the building they're going to try to build? Like, technical question. Secondly, I would like to mention I have a friend who is a nurse, and she has to spend $8 a day driving across the bridge to work at the assisted living home that is now in Sandestin. And I've read that one of the problems that the hospital has is that they can't find employees because nobody can afford to live down here, because all of the buildings that were allowed to be built because
is
of
this
to make
going to come back around to an
affordable-
issue that involves the
affordable
design
living.
of a building?
The design of the building should be all trees and not a building at all.
Okay.
But I just
Thank you.
thought I'd go ahead and mention some of the problems that this place is going to have is finding anybody to work there and having St. Joe microwave frack underneath them. So, anyways.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, anything else to come before this body? Does anyone care to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Oh, we got,
Yeah, because I couldn't even hear some of the comments, and it's.
We will have security at the next meeting.
okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Thank you all.